Aloha, I'm Council Vice Chair Kipukai Kualiʻi. I'm also the Housing Chair. With me.
Aloha, I'm Councilmember Bulosan, Vice Chair of Housing.
So we had our, this is a recap of our budget decision making today. Typically we have 2 days scheduled for this, but we usually can get it done in a day, and we were successful today as well. It was a full day, but we did all our budget decision making today. So some overviews for the budget. Basically, you need 4 votes to cut anything. You need 5 votes to add anything. Today was primarily about making adds, making cuts, and making any changes to the real property tax rates. So each council member could bring forward proposals with help from the staff. But of course, the rest of the council members is only seeing it for the first time. So it was pretty hectic today at times, but we got through, and I think we have 7 proposals that we actually voted on. And to give a quick recap of those, and I ordered them in the monetary value. So the first one came from a council member, and it was proposing a cut of the facilities maintenance operations assistant position, which was already funded at a 6-month funding level. And that was a newly proposed position. So that would have been a $64,000 cut, but that cut failed. So it only had a 2-5 vote. So you needed 5 to pass, it got 5 to fail. So it didn't pass. And then you got number 2?
Yep, the next.
Anything to add to that? It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the discussion basically fell upon that the newly added position was necessary based on how we manage personnel.
Yeah, and then needing a mid-level manager.
Yeah.
To supervise the UPW members and the
Correct.
foremen and the, yeah.
Yeah, and then the next proposal was to increase $150,000 budget for our performance audits. So from the total of $350,000 to $500,000. So it was an add, and whenever we add, we need to find that money. And so the cut came from 2 locations. It came from OED, cut from the budget, 100,000 budget of agriculture, for the agriculture section where we're looking at a shipping study, and then $50,000 cut from the KCC training program. And so that passed, and so an increase of the audit budget to the total of $500,000.
And then the next one was a cut, and it was to reduce the homeless grant and aid funding line item with the housing agency. So the line item was $500,000, and the reduction was proposed at $400,000 to bring it down to $100,000. I think the housing agency director came up and kind of justified some of the things they're wanting to do, even though it is a new program to try and address, homelessness. And it was a close vote, but that item failed, so it was not reduced by the $400,000 in a 3-4 vote.
The next proposal was a cut in the proposal for a dozer or a bulldozer in public works, the total amounting of $800,000. So the cut would remove that dozer in the proposed budget, and that also failed. It's a 3-4 vote.
Yeah, a couple of 3-4 votes today, so pretty close items, just one council member making a difference. This other item came from a council member who basically was trying to alter, change the tier levels for the non-owner occupied residential tax class. So the tier levels currently was tier 1, 1.3 million, to tier 3, 1.3 million, to 2 million, and then tier 3, no, excuse me, 1.3 million to 2 million, yes, the middle tax, and then the final tier 3 was over 2 million. So the proposal was to raise those levels to give more lower tax rates to a larger group. And that was the tier one, I'm confusing them, 1.3 to 2 million, starting at 2 million, and then 2 million to 5 million, and then the top tier being over 5 million. That proposal failed. It was only the proposer who voted for it, and then 6 others voted against it. The person proposing it just felt like that needed to be done to help more people hold on to their homes. But another council member did put forward too that we do have our affordable rental program. So if people were trying to hold on, these are primarily second homes, right? The non-owner occupied residential class is in addition to the owner occupied, so usually second homes. But if it's getting too expensive for people to hold on to their homes and pay their taxes, they can get into our affordable rental program, which then would lower their taxes. Now, the other thing with this proposal was that it was going to cost $5 million, basically in reducing taxes. So that would have to be paid on the other side, and the council member was proposing to pay for that $5 million by taking the monies out of the reserve fund. And I think the clear majority of the council are saying that we don't like the idea of taking money out of our reserves. It's in the reserves for a reason. And if you wanted to do this kind of ad, then you should find the cut somewhere else and not just go to the reserve funds to pay for it.
The next proposal was to reduce the general excise tax contribution to the transportation agency down $5.5 million, and then transferring that, so that's a reduction, and then the add in the budget would be to transfer it to Public Works for island-wide resurfacing road budget. That proposal failed, and the main point for the failure is because it was a transfer to the island-wide road resurfacing, but the money coming from GET is dedicated to both transportation and to roadway resurfacing. So I think the council in general felt that it was fair for these projects to be funded in transportation and didn't need to remove it. In addition, there was in this proposal to also access reserve funds. And like mentioned before, generally that is not good practice for us to try to pull reserve funds to fund our budget, especially with what's going on in the world, especially around the weather. And so we want to make sure that we as a council have enough funds in case things happen.
The only other thing I would add on that, so that failed 2 votes to 5. I mean, I think there's a majority on the council that supports the bus, and that even for those of us who don't necessarily need it, we know that there are people that do. And so that, some people express that it's a big investment for not a lot of people, but I think, and that sometimes the buses are not full. But I think it is a lot of people who need it. If you don't have a vehicle and you need to get to work, or you need to get to school, then public transportation is critical. And the bus here in Kauaʻi should always be something that the county subsidizes and makes available for, the least advantage amongst us. So the last one is the big one. This one, we started our day with this proposal, and then we ended the day with this proposal. It was a very, very big proposal, pretty much in the $8 million range. And what this proposal does is it raises the taxes on the real transient vacation rental, and also the hotel and resorts. My contribution to this proposal was to use the new tiered system where we can have 3 different classes within one classification to establish 3 different rates. Ultimately though, and the most exciting thing about this is basically the revenue being generated, which was 7.4 million, is all going to our housing development fund. So we did have our housing agency director come forward, and we asked some questions about how, potentially the money would be spent. I think the council members were pretty clear in expressing their concern. There's been a lot of talk about the critical need for affordable housing over the years, but this was a big way of saying, okay, let's stop talking and let's start putting, our words to action and putting money behind what we've been saying all these years. And so some members were talking about using the funding to land bank, to buy lands for the county that the county can use as leverage and partnering for affordable housing projects. And that the push for more affordable housing is all about trying to keep our kids home. I think for a few council members that was especially passionate about the need to have housing so that our families can remain here. The only other thing I would add is that our we have the 2% guarantee, which is a statutory requirement, and that would net, in 2023, it net us 4.6 million for our housing development fund, and in 2024, it was 4.9 million. Well, the mayor and his team, the budget team, already put in an additional 8.5 million, so that got us up to 12.6 million. Well, now the council has added another 7.5 million. So that means our housing development fund this year, historic, we've never had anything like it, is at the $20 million level. It's nothing like the 300 million or so that Maui has, but it's way more than what we have had over the years, which is only like in the $3 to $5 million range. So.
Yeah, this is historic in the sense that it has rarely ever been done. I can't remember when tax rate increase on top of a push to put it into housing all in one day. Part of the callbacks in response to the community has been accomplished, and I think a lot of it is in response to a community outcry for housing for local people.
And we're hopeful that the folks in the vacation rental class and the hotel and resorts class, that they will understand that this is, and we appreciate them playing a role, because housing is needed by everyone, including their employees. So we want to help get more housing, and that could also help the employees in our visitor industry. The only other thing is, the council members made the comment that this can provide a guaranteed revenue stream year after year. Well, in fact, the bill as it, or the budget item as it's passed, just reestablishes the rates. It creates its additional revenue this year, so we've put it to housing. But in future years, we're going to have, each council will have to continue to keep that intention and put that additional 7.5 million towards housing. So if we only end up with the statutory requirement of about 5 million next year, then we need to be sure to add that 7.5 million to get us to the $12 million level. And hopefully the mayor puts even more, so, but then we can have a new base so that we're investing more in affordable housing.
Awesome.
That was pretty much it for today. It was a long day, but well worth it. Aloha.
Aloha.